Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Hi, darling. Welcome to my first AMA video. Get yourself a warm drink, get yourself cozy, and let's answer some of your questions. So this is still a relatively new channel, so I thought it would be fun today to answer some of your questions for you to get to know me better. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I put out on my socials a call to literally ask me anything. And if you don't follow me on my socials, by the way, you're missing out on some very inconsistent, random content. So just know that about yourself. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I have a lot of questions and I will get to as many as I can today. So let's get started. But first, more tea. Okay, the first question. On the days where you just don't want to because shorter days, colder temperatures, what changes that mindset so you can? Or do you just will yourself out of bed because you have to? So I guess I could answer this question in a couple ways. It depends if you mean willing yourself out of bed to just do life, or in the context of personal practice, willing yourself out of bed to do your practice. I'll answer both. We all probably have moments. I still have days where it is hard to. The mood is heavy, the mood is dark, it's cold. It is heavy to get out of bed. What gets me out of bed in those moments? I suppose when things, and we're starting on a little bit of a heavy note, but when we are really truly feeling like it's really, really hard to see the point of getting up and having a day at all, you have to start really small. So we're not trying to get out of bed and start a day that is super shiny and bright and in a really good mood. It's like, how can we start an upward spiral by just looking at the next step up, the next level up, the next brightest, slightly brightest thought. And that might mean, thinking about what is one small thing I can look forward to that can literally drag me out of bed. And that might mean that warm drink that's kind of comforting while you listen to a song that you like. And that moment is, okay, this is something that I can be grateful for. This is something that I can appreciate. And sometimes that can be the thing to lift a little bit. So yeah, thinking of these little glimmers, as small as they might be during the day. A lot of times, honestly, it's maybe something good that you like, something good to eat. That might be enough to eventually get us out and get us started. But yeah, it's really looking for these little glimmers. Maybe it's a message, sending a message to a friend, or watching a funny video, or just some small thing that reminds you of the goodness and the light. And that can really help me on those days. And I still have those days. But in the context of practice, I feel like it's really similar. Instead of going to your meditation practice, or maybe go for a morning walk, or whatever it is that's your morning routine to get started and to kind of set the tone for the day, instead of it being this chore that you have to do, if it's possible to make it something that you look forward to. So again, maybe wrapping yourself up in that blanket and having that warm drink and sitting with calming music playing in the morning, that is something that will draw you into maybe even doing a little meditation, or doing a little bit of movement or stretching, or whatever your personal practice is. And I think for me, luckily, after so many years of practice, it truly is like, maybe for some people, brushing their teeth might be, hopefully, where you don't have to force yourself to do it anymore. And part of it is because I feel like I've cultivated this inner space within myself. And the most appropriate word for that truly is a refuge inside myself. And I feel like that's something where I'm excited to go back to that place. And that doesn't mean that every time meditation feels blissful and pleasant and just good all the time, but I I've cultivated that enough through repetition that I can trust that I can find some solace and some ease when I kind of get back into that place. Almost like, I mean, cultivate really is a fair word too. It almost is like you've tended to this inner garden. You've cultivated this space inside of yourself that is bright, is colorful, even on some dim and dark days. So does that make sense? It's really creating something that you look forward to. And over the years, maybe I've cultivated that place inside, that place that I look forward to going to. And so practice really feels like something I relish. I relish going to that space. That physical space also helps, having a nice place that, you know, is pleasing, is comforting, but also we're really returning to an inner space. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. Okay, thank you for that question. Next question. Okay, this is a fun one. You're born with a gift. The gift gives you the ability to have a redo for any event in your life, but you can't be guaranteed the redo will have better long-term outcomes. Would you do it? What would it be? I mean, look, I wish I could give like a fun answer about me going back in time and redoing something and what I would do. But I'm afraid the most honest answer is the boring cliche answer that even some of the things that I might think that I regret and I would go back and do differently have probably shaped me into the person that I am today. So really I do think I look back and sort of trust and appreciate and trust that everything has kind of led to, you know, where I am now and who I am now. And I don't know if I would really go back, especially because the question says it may not have a better long-term outcome. So yeah, but otherwise, if I was pressed, I would probably say, you know, instances where I feel like I could have intervened. This is where my mind usually goes to, is like instances where I could have intervened to reduce the suffering of someone else, where maybe something's happened and I could have kind of stepped in earlier. But again, that's the same thing. That's that tendency to want to control, where instead of allowing for that thing, even on everyone else's journey, to sort of lead to learning and growth and eventually goodness. So that would be my answer. Okay, what is currently in your most played rotation on Spotify? I mean, do I have to think about it? No, I don't have to think about it. Definitely it's Tori Amos. I absolutely adore Tori Amos, and I have for many, many years, most of my adult life. And you know, when Spotify does that Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, consistently Tori Amos is up there almost every year. And so much to say about Tori, but she stirs something in me that no artist truly has before. And yeah, if I can really describe why, I think Tori's music, you know, in spiritual practice, we talk about, you know, the veil, the illusions that are kind of part of being an embodied human, you know, whether the illusion is, you know, identity, a sense of self, and all of these layers and these roles and these games that we sort of play. I feel like a lot of times when I'm listening to Tori Amos, it's almost like she's, you know, kind of winking and through the veil and kind of hinting or peeking through the veil. And I love that. It's like reminders. It's like, yeah, it's like reminders of what's possible, if that makes sense. Oh, and one other thing I'll have to say, sometimes in Spotify Wrapped, there is another artist that's above Tori Amos, and that's only because I put this kind of moody, calming piano music on a lot of times in the background, and not to put it down as background music, but I really like listening to kind of dark, moody yet soothing piano music. And so one of the artists that has topped Tori before is I think it's a young Mexican artist called Gibran Alcocer. So once in a while, that artist tops Tori. All right, next question. Oh, what is the painting slash photo over your shoulder on the wall? Okay, assuming we mean this one that's right here, I'll put a little screenshot of what the full painting actually looks like. The artist's name is Fuseli. Can't remember the first name. It's quite an old painting, quite a famous painting. I think I like it. I think it gets a bit of a reaction when people come over. I think I really like it because, well, both my partner and I really like that painting. And I think, again, on that theme of moody and the darkness, I think sometimes dark imagery really, it's a reminder of the balance of light and dark, and that also is a part of our reality. And I don't know, there's something about, being comfortable with it and maybe even seeing the absurdity of it or being able to just face it and embrace that too as part of this crazy existence. And that art like that really reminds me of that, and I like it. And I suppose there's something about that imagery that maybe I'll link to the actual explanation of what the meaning or the significance of the art actually is. And then just in case we're talking about this one, which I guess is usually covered by my head, but this is just like a print of a very famous Claude Monet, one of those Claude Monet water lily painting. And I actually am in progress. It's in progress. I am actually painting some figures on top of it to sort of personalize it a little bit, but it's not done yet. I have quite a bit of weird and eclectic art all over the house. All right, next question. Okay, I'm going to thematically cluster a few questions. There was, what is your favorite dessert? What food do you enjoy that is underrated? And what is your favorite junk food? Okay, favorite junk food, French fries. French fries with mayonnaise, ketchup, sometimes mayonnaise and ketchup and sriracha all mixed. Love that, definitely that. Favorite dessert? A really, really great chocolate cake is kind of the best thing ever. So yeah. A food that I enjoy that is underrated. I don't know if it's underrated, but I love cream in all of its forms, especially whipped cream, custard, anything like flan, creme brulee, custard, anything like that is so good. And I feel like it might be seen as like an old-timey or more of a traditional type of dessert, but for my money, it's still the best you can get. I guess creme brulee would rival. Oh, maybe I think I actually might. I revised my answer for favorite dessert. I actually think creme brulee might be my favorite dessert, with the crusty top that you, yeah. How old were you when you got into meditation? And I'll couple this with, was there a reason meditation called to you so strongly? I feel really fortunate that I found meditation at a relatively young age. I was in my early 20s, and I got into meditation for the classic reason that most people, a lot of people, I think, get into meditation is from going through really, really dark chapters. And I was going through quite a dark chapter in my life. And especially when I got really serious about meditation, it was quite a dark time in my life. And I mean, I can even trace it back to before I discovered meditation. And when I was a little girl, I journaled a ton, which is why now one of the practices that I love to share is actually contemplative writing or journaling. I was very introspective as a little girl, and I just remember writing to myself and journaling, and quite early on, young adolescence, really recognizing that all of this difficulty has something to do with the way that I was thinking about things. And so journaling really helped me sort out the way that I was thinking about things. So this is like doing mindset work, just kind of stumbling upon it myself really young. And then when I discovered meditation, it was like, oh, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to start this whole thing. I don't have to figure it all out on my own. There's actually these practices that for thousands of years people have been going to and have been getting benefit from. And so it was a real homecoming for me. You know, I think a lot of Buddhist philosophy made really, really clear sense to me, and it helped me. It was completely life-changing. I mean, that term is not even enough to explain, you know, what the level of freedom and peace and joy that it's brought to my life. So yeah, that was the reason I was called to meditation. And I'm very lucky, you know, I mostly grew up in Vancouver, where we have a lot of retreat centers, a lot of teachers, a lot of resources. So I started to just go to retreats really early and kind of just immerse myself really deeply in practice. And that's how I started. And then, you know, several years ago, I did a wonderful, deep, intensive, really, really brilliant 2-year mindfulness meditation training program with Tara Brach and Jack Kornfield that, you know, really set me up for what I'm doing now, which is sharing the practices. So, yeah. Okay, this is an interesting question. How has your father influenced you? So I'm lucky. I have very, very wonderful parents, like truly, truly wonderful. And I guess when I think about how my dad might have influenced me, my dad is the embodiment of compassion. You know, he is someone who he really, really cares. He really cares about other people. And he just really cares about peace in the world. And so I think the influence that he's had on me is, you know, that sense of compassion and aspirations for peacefulness. And then someone else who knows me has asked, are you still inspired by Tony Robbins like your mother? Haha. Yeah, so So quick story. When I was young, my mom, this is like in the days of cassette tapes, and this is in the early days of motivational speakers and personal development, relatively early days, I think. My mom would get these cassette tapes that were like the teachings or whatever, the lectures of Tony Robbins. And I think the program was called something dramatic, like Unleash the Power of Your Potential or something like that. And the thing with my mom is she was always incredibly ambitious and into personal improvement and personal growth and expansion and really reaching one's potential. And so she would get these tapes and listen to them. And I can't remember how or why, but I would take some of these tapes sometimes and I would listen to them too. And whatever you may think of Tony Robbins now, I mean, at the time I'd never really heard anything like that before. And it was incredible the way he would teach you to, you know, how you talk to yourself, the language that you use to talk to yourself, but also the language that you use to talk about your situation and just the way that you think about things. And again, it touched back on that, this is something about, you know, mindset, perspective, you know, the way that we think about things is really the most important thing. So yeah, I do think that had a pretty big influence on me, and I appreciate my mom a lot for that. So yeah, both my parents, again, just yeah, super, super lucky to have them. And they also watch my videos and they're my biggest fans, so. All right. And I'm actually, you know what, I'm gonna jump to this question, where are you from originally, on the topic of my parents. So my family is from Iran. I was actually born in Iran, in the capital city, Tehran. And when I was 2 years old, during the Iran-Iraq war, we kind of fled to Pakistan, and we actually were in Pakistan for 2 years as refugees while we waited to, you know, be able to immigrate to another country. And Canada was the one who took us in. So yeah, really, really grateful for everything that they went through to really give me the life that I have now. Yeah, quite a journey and pretty amazing. So my whole family is from Iran. That's where my name is from. I do speak Farsi relatively well. And I still have a lot of family back there. Iran is a country that has an incredibly rich history that I wish I knew more about. It's a place that's gone through a lot of turmoil and continues to have a lot of unrest and turmoil. And I really have a strong wish for Iran to kind of return to being a place of peace and cultural thriving like it once was. Yeah, if anyone's watching from there or knows anyone from there or, or any other country, and there's so many places around the world in turmoil right now, yeah, my heart goes out to them. Okay, what is your favorite place outside of Canada that you've traveled to and why? I mean, I feel lucky because of, my parents bringing me to Canada and some of the opportunities that came with that. I have been able to travel to a lot of places, so it is hard to pick, but it's probably some recency bias, but maybe not. I was able to spend some time in Rome a year or two ago, and that was one of the most special places to be able to, I mean, whether you're talking about the history of the city, the history of the culture, the architecture, the art. I mean, the art history alone is absolutely so deep and so incredible. And of course, the food and the people, and there's so much. Italy is really, really a special place, and it might be my favorite place that I've traveled to. Rome specifically is maybe my favorite place I've traveled to. All right. Is there a single place in the world that you're drawn to spiritually above all others? So obviously a very hard question. I mean, I have definitely traveled to some places that are, known to be spiritually charged places, some places of pilgrimage in India, and I've traveled to a lot of different places in India and stayed at ashrams and done meditation retreats. There's no denying there's some of these sites, they do seem to really hold something really special. But I have to say, I think I would go back to how much I love places that have a rich history of art. And I mean, a lot of countries do, and India certainly does too. But specifically for me, it's art museums in a way are actually really spiritually charged places for me. When I get to spend a few hours, and when I go into an art museum, I usually put a headset on and I listen to some music that I think will kind of enhance the experience. And I can spend so much time looking at art, and something really happens, when you can singularly focus on appreciating art in that way. And to me, it's quite deep, and it really, yeah, it is quite a spiritual experience. So I might have to say art museums, actually, wherever that is, whether it's Rome or Paris, and those are the biggest art centers that I've been to, but that might be it for me. Okay, another tea break. Okay, the last question for today. Has it ever happened to you that you really didn't like something but pretended you did? I mean, of course, right? Of course. I've definitely, to preserve someone's feelings, I've definitely probably said I pretended I liked something but didn't. Let me think before I answer. I mean, maybe there is a time and place to lie to really save someone's feelings, but as much as possible, I think I really do try to, instead of lying, just kind of reframe or say things differently, or kind of shift the focus on something else, or just omit some information so that I'm not explicitly lying. I mean, I used to teach, so here's another thing about me. I used to actually teach French immersion kindergarten years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. And we used to teach the children, before you speak, think, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? And I quite like that. The older I get, I think I'm really trying to commit to radical honesty. And really that's for the sake of being authentic and doing what you want, like spending your energy in the ways that you want to spend, especially as someone who can be quite a people pleaser. I think it's important, and I have been practicing to, if I say I like something, or if I'm agreeable to something, and because of that I end up doing something that I really don't want to do, or spending my time in a way that I really don't want to spend my time, then that's ultimately harmful to myself. So I think there are ways to be diplomatic and, again, kind of phrase things in a way so that you're still being somewhat truthful. And I think you can do it in a way that's still kind and truthful, and so you don't end up getting yourself entangled in things that you don't want to be entangled in. So you got to be careful with pretending that you like things. So I guess that's what I would say about that. Okay, well, I think that's it. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments below and I can answer a few more, or maybe I'll collect them and do another round in a while. And thank you to you watching. As this is still a new channel, watching, liking, commenting, subscribing really, really helps the channel find new audiences. And it is my aspiration for the channel to grow. The next milestone I want to celebrate is hitting 200 subscribers. It is my aspiration to really share practices and share insights and share reflections that have brought light into my life, so that they may bring light into your life. And yeah, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Ecos, come here. Not a single question about Ecos. Can you believe that? Not a single question for you. Do you want a treat? This is good.